own display name. We've got a button right here that says Become. Very important button, one of the handiest tools that you're going to have as a Canvas admin inside of your system. We're going to come back to that in a minute because we're going to do an activity with that. We've got two others here that says Merge with another user and Delete from your course. So a couple of things to note here. When you have a user in your system and maybe they've graduated, maybe they've moved, they're no longer part of your account, you can do a couple of things. You can delete them completely from your account, but when you do note that you are removing all of their information, which means all of any grade that they may have gotten in a course, any of their submissions for outcomes, everything about that user will be totally gone. So before you do that, keep in mind what you need to do as far as policy. So as we go through some of these things, you're going to find out you're going to have to make some policy decisions here. So what's your policy? In the state of Virginia, I had to keep users in my system for 2 years. So you might want to check on that before you go ahead and delete that information, because a user could come back, a student could come back on the higher ed level and protest their grades for up to 2 years in Virginia. So I had to keep that information there. So you may not want to delete them. However, there are times when you end up with duplicate accounts in your system for the exact same person. Make sure you check those accounts out really well so that you can see which one's being used, which one's not being used. If you have a duplicate account that has no courses tied to it, you can safely delete that. But if you see that there's a little bit in each one, maybe the user wasn't sure, they've got 2 different accounts going on, they've changed their name maybe, you never know what it is. You put them in manually, they already had an account in the system, now you've got 2 accounts, lots of different reasons why that can happen. So your better choice is merging that user. So if I click on this button right here that says Merge with another user, I can now come in here and find if Helen has another account in my system. I can put her name in right here and see if anything else will pull up. So in this particular case, I know that Helen doesn't. She's an actual user at Victoria College, the one that I've selected today, so I'm going to delete this here. But notice over here on the right-hand side, you've got or enter a user ID. So a couple of things to note. Up here in your URL, notice that I've got my account /users and a number. That number here is the number that's associated with me inside of Canvas. So every user will have a number. It'll be associated with the one that's in your student information system as well. Every course has a number in Canvas, every user has a number in Canvas. So if I had 2 accounts for Helen, one was 23 and one was 38, I could type 38 in here and then go ahead and merge her account. It would give me another screen that would just simply say, are you sure you want to merge? This is what's going to happen. Look it over real quick and then say, yes, merge it. Looking a little bit more on the user page here, you can see any of the enrollments. So I can see that Helen has been in one course here and she's been in one group here. But if she had been here through the entire 4 years of her higher ed career, then you would see several different courses listed there and several different groups depending on what she's doing. And they're always active links, so you can jump right off to them. You as an admin can get into anything that's in your system, even if the course has been concluded. A little further down, you can see all the page views for that particular user. So you can see here where she's been, page by page, the dates and the times, how many times she participated, how many times she just looked on something, and you can also see what browser she's using. So Helen was using Firefox 47 when she was in my class here on July 19th. Notice that you can download this information as well, right over here in the top corner. Now, this is actually a pretty useful tool for you, believe it or not, as a Canvas admin, because sometimes you'll get that question where it's like, something's wrong in my account, it just seems to be spinning, it's not going anywhere. Your first thought is, well, that's a browser issue. Hop into their user account here, find out what their browser is. If they're using Internet Explorer 8, that's the problem right there. That's way, way past usage. You know that you can tell them to go and update their browser or switch to a different one. So that's what you'll find there in your page views, just a little tip on helping you out in that area. A few other things you can do in the user area. Up at the top, you could see that I could see outcome results for Helen. So if she had been submitting any work that might be associated with an outcome, that's a quick link to just information about her. I could pull that as a report. I can also message Helen directly. I don't have to go into my inbox over in the global navigation. I can send her a message right from inside here where I'm working. So I can see that Helen was on Firefox 47 and she needs to update that. I could send her a message that says, Helen, update your Firefox. Things will run better for you. You may or may not have the faculty journal available to you. That was an opt-in feature. So if you see that, then you can create a faculty journal for them. And basically what that is just a place where you can gather notes and dates about any kind of correspondence or any kind of information that you want to keep about that particular user. Okay, let's come to the Become button. When you click on that Become button, you're going to be able to masquerade as this user. This is a handy tool. You are really going to use this one a lot, I guarantee it. Because the user comes to you and they're saying, I've got a problem in my account. You look at their account from their view. It looks a little different than what it is from your view, right? Because you have all the rights and permissions. Their permission set is a little bit more limited. So sometimes you have to actually look at their problem from their account. So in this case, I would come in here and choose my Become button, and then I would masquerade as Helen right here. Now you can see this is Helen's account now, and I know that because I've got that pink banner all the way around there. There's her picture telling me that I'm currently masquerading as her. So I'm going to be able to get into everything that Helen has. So every course that she's either taking or teaching, I will see it from her view instead of mine as a Canvas admin. So when you're done masquerading, you're going to click on that button at the bottom right-hand corner that says Stop Masquerading. You want to make sure you do that to return you back to your own view. Okay, so that masquerading feature, like I said, is going to be the handiest one that you'll have as a Canvas admin. I'd guarantee that. I'm going to bring up an activity for you so you can practice that. I want you to find a user in your account. If there's nobody there but you, click on your own name, open up that user profile, select Become, and test that masquerade visibility. So once you pull that up and you see that you've got that big pink box all the way around there, go ahead and start clicking through the different items, different courses that that user might be enrolled in, and take a look at things from their point of view. I'm going to open up a poll for you. Give you a few minutes to do that. I've got 10 of you in the room, so I'll be watching that for when the majority of you are ready to move on. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat pod. Well, good morning. So all of you are quite speedy this morning, so that's excellent. Everybody's ready to work this Monday morning. So I'm going to go ahead and move on forward. So I see a couple of questions going on in there. Rob, I was wondering if you're in a pilot stage still. That may be why you're not seeing yourself in a test account there. You might not have access to that yet if you're just at the very beginning of looking at this. That could be a reason. If not, then do check with your CSM like Erin suggested. So Lynn, when you're masquerading, you can see everything. You're the admin. You've got that superpower shield there. You see it all. Oh, their emails. That's a really good question, actually. Let's take a look at that. So I'm going to come back to my Sandbox course here. We'll go into a user. Let's pick someone. Well, I think we'll have to pick my name here because I know this is a limited account, so I may not have an example. So here's my faculty journal. That was one question here. Looking at that faculty journal, nothing here right now. You're simply going to go to create a new entry. It's going to give you just an opportunity to put in a title of what that entry is and a note. So my entry might be, let's see, reminder for Bob Green. He was an instructor of mine who I had to tell him the same thing every time the session started. Every semester he would ask me the exact same question. Why can't I email my students? Oh, Bob, I told you before, Bob needs to be reminded to publish his course before his students can be messaged. Okay, that would be my entry there. That's your faculty journal area. Not a lot, just little reminders to self. Come on back on my users here. So when I become a user, I don't want to become me. Let's become Yvette here. I'm becoming Yvette, masquerading as her. Now I see all of Yvette's global information here. So I've got her inbox right here. No messages here. All right, so you won't be able to read their personal information. Great questions. So no faculty members. Actually, the masquerading feature is an admin feature. Now you can create a custom role and give other people the rights to masquerade if you want. You could give instructors, teachers the rights to masquerade, but try to keep that to an admin feature. It just helps you with any kind of issues. You don't want them taking over other people's accounts. You want to be the one controlling that. You're the admin. Okay, so let's come on back to that user page where I'm at. We went into a particular user there. We talked about finding a user. We talked about looking at that user account. If you're creating a brand new user, you've got a button right over here. So if you're not pulling that in from your student information system and you want to manually add a user, you're going to put in their full name, display name, sortable name, their email, and their SISID if you know what that is. Now do note only the full name and the email are the required fields because they have that asterisk there. So you can just put in those placeholders for their account if that integration is going to be done later on, and then you can sync those two accounts up. So that's adding your new user. A few other buttons I want to talk about over here on the right-hand side, view your user groups. Very important area, actually. So when I click on that button here, I have the opportunity to create groups in my system for people. So why would I want to do that as an admin? Best reason of all is because your users are going to come to you. They're going to say, can I have a space for our committee? We have a team that needs to meet. Can I have a course for that? We have a project to do. Can I have a course for that? So instead of giving them a course, what you want to do is create them a group space where they can work with each other, collaborate with each other, share documents with each other, get into conferences with each other. Do that on your admin side. Reason being, when you later pull reports for all of your courses, if you have been giving groups course space, then they're going to have, with that course space, assessment tools. So when you pull criteria on what kind of grade average is happening across your courses, what's going on there, that's going to affect that. So when you create your groups for those committee spaces from the admin side, you strip out all that assessment area. So for example, you can see here I've got two groups. I've got an honors club and I've got one for Maryland judges. I'm just going to click on plus my group set to create it. I'm going to make this group set right here, my Monday team leads. That's going to be my name of my group. Once I have my group set, I can come in and even break that down further. So I can say, okay, this is my Monday team leads, but I've got 2 team leads. And of course you'd put in a person's name, but I'm just going to put in team A. How many people are going to be in this group? 2. I'm going to make another one, and it's going to be team B. How many people are in this group? 2. And then I can come over here and begin to add people into my account here. You've got some buttons over here on the right-hand side. Always look for those gear buttons inside of Canvas. You've got a couple of different ones. You've got the one on the group level here, which is going to say randomly assign students that are in your account, edit and delete. If you're doing it right in Team A here, you can visit that group homepage. So this is what I'm talking about. So when I go to visit group homepage, you'll see what I've got here on the left-hand side: announcements, pages, people, discussions, files, conferences, collaborations. What's missing? What's missing are all those assessment components. You don't have assignments, you don't have grades, you don't have anything that's going to be associated with the grades. It's kind of like a mini course inside of a course. It'll steer you clear when you run those reports about your account when you've got your groups set up specifically here. And you can switch between the different groups easily with that button right up there at the top. So use that group space in your users area, viewing your user groups right over here when you want to create committee space and team space. Okay, you've also got manager profile pictures. So if you click on manager profile pictures, you'll be able to see how many pictures were submitted, whether or not you're approving them, how many are there all together. When you click on that, it's going to open it up. You're going to see everybody's name, their information. You're going to see their picture. You can come down through this list here and you can decide whether or not you want to approve these pictures to be used in your system, or whether you want to lock them so they can't be changed, or whether you want to delete them because maybe that photo isn't exactly appropriate. So you as a Canvas admin have the right to do that inside of your system. Now, a few things to note here. You can just leave it be. You don't have to go in and approve each one. So no worries about that kind of management task, just let it be. If a student is putting a picture in here that perhaps is not very appropriate, you delete it. They do it again, you can lock their account so that they can't add a picture. That's another thing you can do. Also keep in mind that we know that some institutions have a set of pictures which are the approved pictures, the approved roster pictures of everyone in their school. So you might not even give them the opportunity to put a picture in. That's all in your account settings, whether or not you allow them to even add a photo. But this is where you would control it, right here in that area in your user's account. Okay, notice that there's analytics here, and we're going to come back to analytics in just a little bit here. What we're going to do right now is we're going to come into those admin tools. So I'm coming down here in my navigation, coming all the way down. We're going to talk about admin tools because now we're going to talk about those one-off kind of tools here. So you'll have 3 tabs here: restoring your courses, viewing your notifications, and logging. Now, if you don't see this button, view notifications, it's just not turned on in your system. Make sure you ask your Customer Success Manager, CSM, to turn that on for you so you'll be able to see notifications. But I'm going to walk you through these things right now. All right, So what's the first thing that's going to happen? You launch Canvas, everybody's using Canvas. It's the first time everybody's used Canvas. The term is over. Your instructors don't know what they're supposed to do about their course. You've got to communicate with them, first of all, what happens. That's going to save you a lot of headache. Explain to them, your course is going to stay in the system, but it will conclude. Here's what's going to happen. And there are choices that you make, which you can learn about in one of our other admin sessions, about what is going to be available to any user after they have completed a course. So maybe they'll have read-only rights to view that information from that course, but you've locked them out of any quizzes. Maybe you only allow them to have access between a certain time frame. Whatever that might be, please communicate well with your users what's going to happen at your institution with your courses. Because if you don't, what may happen is an instructor is going to say, well, class is over, now what do I do? And they're going to go into the settings of their course. They're going to see a bunch of buttons on the right-hand side. There's 4 or 5 different choices, and they're not going to know which one they're supposed to select. So what do? They click delete the course. What's happened when they delete the course? All that course content has disappeared, as well as all the student data, all of the grades, all of the assignments, anything that's been turned in, all the discussions, everything completely gone. Then they panic. Oh my gosh, now was I supposed to do that? Was I not supposed to do that? I can't bring that information back. No, they can't. They don't have the right to do that. Only you do as an admin. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to your admin tools area. You're going to click on the Restore Courses tab here. Then you're going to search for that deleted course by the ID. Now remember that ID you can easily find up at the top. That would be in their URL right there. But you can also quickly go into the user account, find them by name, and then look in the history, and you'll be able to click on that link. Before they deleted that course, you'll have that link there, and then you can get that ID that way as well. So knowing what an ID might be, I'm going to go in and type in course number 27. I'm going to find that course. Here's that course that was deleted. What are my options now? My option is one thing, restore the course. But notice what I've got next to it. Enrollments to this course must be restored manually. Why is that? That's because you have 2 files for every course. You have your course and you have your enrollment file with all your users in it. So I can click on Restore. It's going to bring back all that course information. Now it's going to say, what do I want to do? Just look at the course, or do I want to add my enrollments? If you want to bring back that student data with all those grades, you do need to click on the Add Enrollments button to also bring that information back. Okay, so that's your Restore Your Course feature here. Okay, coming on back down to, let's come back here. Back to my admin tools. Let's talk about the viewing notifications if you have on there. The reason you would come here for view notifications might be very simple. It might be that if you're in K-12, a parent says, you know, Johnny's never received anything at all, so how can he be held responsible for his grades, right? Not likely, right? You're going to come in here and you're going to find out. Let's view those notifications, see what Johnny's been getting here. Let's see, I'm going to stick to Helen in this one. There we go. I'm typing in Helen. I'm finding her name right here. When I click on her name, it's going to give me that opportunity to generate a report of her activity. I can define those dates. So let's see, I know this course was last summer. I'm going to leave it in June the 1st. And maybe until today. And I'm going to say find. What kind of notification has Helen received? There we go. Helen received that she has been signed up for a weekly report here. Here's all of her weekly reports, her notifications. She got information about a grade on an assignment. There's another assignment that's been graded. So you can see that that user has been getting notifications. So now you can print this out, you can give this back and say to that parent, well, yeah, Johnny actually has been receiving notifications. Perhaps he has notifications turned off in his own account area. So you might want to have the student check for that. That's your notifications area. Another thing you have is logging. That's your last tab over here. So you can select a different log type to look at. So first of all, your login, log out activity. How many times are your users logging in and logging out of Canvas? Have there been any grade change activity going on? Maybe you have team teachers. One person's putting in a grade, another person has changed it. Maybe you have a TA changing a grade when they're not supposed to be changing a grade. You can take a look at that as well. You can also see course activity right here. How many times a user is logging in and logging out of a course. Now I want to bring to your attention this one right here that says login, log out activity. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to search for myself. And I'm going to say, generate a report. How many times have I logged in and logged out? So let's just make this since the beginning of May until now. I'm going to say find to run that report. What's it going to show me? It's going to show me all the times I have logged in by the dates and the times. It's also going to show me log out if I've logged out. That's the trick. Okay, so I've not actually ever logged out of this account. I have stayed in. Why is that? You will find, as we have found, that most of our users, when they are done in Canvas, they just close the browser. That's not logging out. You need to go into your account and there's a log out button there. When you click log out there, that's what's going to record it in your information over here with your login, log out activity. So if you see when looking at your own account that you've got no logging out, you'll know that you've been one of those, just like me, who just closes the browser and moves on. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a few minutes now for our next activity. Go ahead and navigate to that logging tab and run a login check on anybody in your system or just yourself if you're the only one there. We've got that poll open again. I'll give you a few minutes. Let me know when you're ready to move on. Okay, excellent. So I've got 8 of you ready to move forward. We're going to keep on going. So now we're going to talk about some of those other ways that you can use your admin side to collect that information that you need, the end of the year, those reports. So I'm going to come down here in my navigation down to settings. Now there's a tab over here that says reports. One of our other webinars, we go through all of these tabs here, but we just lightly touch on reports. This is where we're going to talk a little bit more in depth on reports here. So that's where we're going in your settings, all the way at the bottom. 2 reports. Now we've got inside of Canvas here all kinds of reports that you can run. You can look through this long list of here. So when your provost or your principal says to you something like, okay, well, what's going on inside of Canvas here? I want to know what courses have never been used, what courses have remained unpublished, so I can get after those teachers. So you can come down here and you can look at this unpublished courses or unused courses, whichever one might fit you better. You can check that question mark right next to it. It's going to give you an explanation of what this particular course is all about. So this is a report showing all the courses for that given term that were not published. It's going to give it to you in a CSV file format, which you can download. It'll export into an Excel spreadsheet. So you'll have all that information in there, and then you can manipulate those different columns as you need to once that's done. So if I wanted to run this report, I would come over here and I would click on my Configure button. Now when it says Configure, that means I've got one more thing to do. I got to define a term. So if I want to know how many courses were not published in my spring of 2017, that's what I'm going to run my report on instead of everything. So those are your choices, your default term or any terms that you may already have in there. And you can just simply click on Run that report. When you run the report, it's going to give you a message over here that says the report is running, and you'll receive an email when it's done. So you as a Canvas admin will receive that email. However, most reports don't really take that long. You can probably refresh your screen, and when you do, you'll get that date and time stamp of when something's been run and a little cloud right there that will allow you to download that into a CSV file. So if I click on that cloud right there, you'll see that it downloaded right over here in my corner. If I go to open, it's going to pull up any of that information that I have inside of that file. And you'll be able to share that with everyone that you might need to share that with. Now, another button you might see might simply say Run. If it says Run, then you don't need to take that extra step of defining a term. It's just going to run everything completely. So what are some of the great reports that we have in here? How about course storage? That's an excellent one. Keep an eye on how much space your users are using inside of each course. You might have someone who's using it quite heavily. Maybe they're using it heavily because they have a lot of video in there and it's using up a lot of course space. That might be your cue as a Canvas admin to go talk to them and tell them how to compress their video to save some course storage space there. You can do a grade export on all of your students. That's very useful, one of those reports that's usually requested at the end of the year. An LTI report right here. If you want to know what kind of apps all of your instructors are putting in their courses, you can find that out by running that report so that you don't have to go into each individual one to see who's put Khan Academy in their course. Just run that LTI report and you'll be able to see that. So lots of great information here. Outcome results is an excellent one right here. If you're putting outcomes up on an account or a sub-account level and you have some results associated with different users, you can get one big report right there. Your recently deleted courses, there's where you can go also to find out what happened when Helen deleted her course. I can run that report right there as well instead of going into her history, and I'm going to get that information there. So take a quick moment, look through this list. After you do that, that's your next activity. Actually, I'm going to give you 2 different activities here because I think we also want to go to our statistics. We do. Sorry about that. We're going to check. All right, take one quick look through your reports here and let me know if you have any questions. Remember, you can always click that question mark there. Okay, so Angela's asking if there's an attendance report. So no attendance report, but you could, nope, it's only going to record competency submissions. You might want to install an app for attendance in your system. There's one available to you. It's one I would recommend only on the K-12 level, not on the higher ed level, just my personal information on that. Yeah. So your enrollment activity is just going to show you whether or not they've been active in the system, but not whether they've had attendance on every particular day. You'll need an attendance app for that. Okay, let's talk about statistics and reports, some of the other two things that you can get. I'm going to come from my global navigation area here, my admin navigation, click on statistics. It's going to give you some general information about what's going on in your account. It'll tell you how many courses are in your account, how many teachers, how many students, how many users. It's going to tell you how much file storage is being used up. So that's a quick way for you to come in here and find out what's going on. So there have been 205 files uploaded, only one file for media. So this is a good place for you to keep an eye on things so that you'll know when you're starting to use up some space in your system there. Now you've got a little link here that says over time. If you click on that link, what that's going to do is just give you an interactive chart right here where you can drag that little dot along and you can see. So we have one course on July 21. I've got two courses in November 17. And of course your system will be a lot more than this test account. So April 22nd, I had 3 courses in here. And notice you can also download this information as a CSV file so that you can have that information in a different view. It's also going to show you any courses that were recently started or ended, as well as the recently logged in users. On the right-hand side, you have your View Analytics. That's going to give you your analytics of what's going on in your system. So again, you've got this information across the top. How many courses, how many teachers, how many students, how many assignments, how many discussion topics, how many files were uploaded, and how many of them were media recordings. You can use this to toggle down the list or toggle through the list if you've got several different terms once you start building things out. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice a toggle switch. That toggle switch, right now we're looking at this visually in graph form. I can toggle that over and I can get that in numerical form if I choose to have my report in that way instead. How many page views, how many participation. So this is an important area here. We use 2 different colors, page views and participation. So page views means it's recording every time a user clicks on a page inside of Canvas. Participation is being recorded every time a user takes an action. So they've submitted an assignment, they've submitted a discussion reply, they've taken an action, they've sent a message. Something has been done to indicate their activity. They haven't just simply looked at a page. Now you'll notice as you start using Canvas, your graph here will begin to have that typical ebb and flow that your semesters will do, probably go down low in the summer months and spike back up again in September. So you'll see that normal ebb and flow start to happen. But you can see when I click right over here, move my cursor right over it, between July and 18th and July 24th, I had 513 people participating. I had 7,800 page views. So they looked at a lot of pages in there and 513 people actually took an action in my account on this particular week. This is a bar graph that will be week by week for every month. Coming down a little bit further, you'll also see the activity by category. And this is a great place for you as a Canvas admin to go, especially if you're the one that also is charged with doing professional development on how to use Canvas to your users. Because now you can come in here from time to time and you could say, okay, everybody's really using quizzes and pages and modules. They're doing really well. But look over here, not a whole lot going on inside of the files area, nothing going on in groups, whatever it might be. So it's going to kind of give you that cue to say where you need to plan your next development workshop, right? So I've got really low activity here in my discussions. Maybe I need to do a 1-hour workshop on how to do a discussion in Canvas. You're also going to have a grade distribution chart, which is going to break that out. Again, you can see 1.9% of my students scored 69, and it just keeps going depending on how many are doing it, what they've done. This is 68%, almost 10% of my students scored a 68 in this class. So this is your grade distribution. It's going to go on, in this case, my entire term because I've got my default term. But remember, as you start using it and breaking it out into your different terms, you can get information for each term. So one tip for you as a Canvas admin, I would always go in at the end of my term and I'd capture this data. I would just capture it visually. I would just take a screen snapshot of it, or I would download it and put it in a file so that I always had this information to come back to. You can jump back and forth to it yourself, but sometimes you just need quick access to it when you're not on your computer. So you might want to just print this information out. It'll kind of help you. You'll see where Canvas is growing, how your users are using Canvas in your courses. Okay, that's your next activity now. I want you to go in and explore analytics or explore statistics, either one. So remember, you're getting statistics from that navigation. Come on back here. On the left-hand side, and you're getting the analytics by choosing the button on the right-hand side. Okay, I'm going to bring that activity back over. That poll is open and ready for you. Let us know when you're ready to move forward, and I'll check that chat room for questions. Rob, I'm thinking that you might be on a limited account, either in a pilot stage or you don't have full admin access yet. So if you're not in a pilot stage, definitely contact your CSM. Make sure they get that opened up for you, but I'm thinking that's why you're not seeing that. Perfect. Okay. That'll show up for you once you have some data in there and you have that access. You're welcome. Okay, looks like 2/3 of you are ready to move forward. Any last takers on that poll? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let's move on. So what I want to point out to you here is, remember, you are on your account level right now, and you'll see that in your breadcrumb trail at the top. But do know that you can also get the same kind of information on a sub-account level. You'll just navigate to sub-accounts inside of your system, and then you can go directly to a particular sub-account that you might have. So if I only want to pull a report on my graduate studies sub-account, maybe just even my business department inside of my sub-account, I can look inside that business department and find out what kind of activity is going on inside of there. So do know that those reports and those statistics and analytics can be very granular. You can just keep going down until you get to where you want to and pull that kind of information. All right, next thing we're going to talk about are those shared resources. Those are the outcomes and the rubrics and the question banks. So they're over here in your navigation as well. How many of you are using outcomes at your school? Or let me know if you're not using outcomes. Just put that in the chat pod and I'll talk through this as we go. So outcomes can be used for lots of different reasons. On the K-12 level, you're probably using outcomes that might be your state standards and Common Core. If you are, contact your CSM. Tell them that we need to have that information inside of our system, and they can have that preloaded for you so you don't have to put all that information in there yourself. So you can pick those state standards for the state of Virginia and put them in your account, and you can have the outcomes available. You as the Canvas admin are going to load those up on your account level, or you can bring it down to a sub-account level if you want. Then anyone below that will be able to pull it into their course. Remember, permissions flow down. So you put that information in on that account level. I'm doing K-12, let's say. I'm doing math. What's that going to be? Maybe I'm going to put that inside of my sub-account for my math department. So you as a Canvas admin, you'll be in your admin settings here. What you will do, if we have them ready for you, you're going to find your state standards in there and available to you. That'll open up that information once they're loaded for your state. That's the first thing you'll do. You'll find those and put them there. But you can also create them from scratch. So for example, in the higher ed side, I've seen outcomes created for different institutions. I've worked with one recently that wanted to create outcomes for all of their adjuncts in the system to make sure that they're teaching to the same criteria as their regular full-time teachers. So they helped them out by creating outcomes for them. You're going to create a group. So maybe this is going to be my group, which might be my science department. Put in your title. You're going to describe that group right there, whatever that might be. You've got all your rich content editor tools right here that you can use as you write that out. And then you're just going to save that. So what have I done? I've created just that folder, that group that's in. So now what can I do with that particular one? I can add my outcomes in there. So now I can do plus an outcome. I can name this outcome, give it a friendly name, describe that outcome, choose my criterion ratings, define my mastery, and my calculation method for that. So that's outcomes. I will let you know that we are developing a brand new session, which is outcomes for admins. So come back and take a look at that one. That should be up and running sometime this summer, hopefully our very next quarter. But creating a brand new outcome, putting in that name. Now, if you've tied it to something like a state standard, it might come in like 1.2.B.4, something long and silly like that. And it could be quite long. So you might want to give it a friendly name right here. So in my science department, it might be something like learn chemical names. And give it a little bit more of a description in that rich content editor field. How am I going to assess my students whether or not they're meeting or exceeding or not meeting that outcome? I can come in here and identify any of that information, do some customization. So I'm going to leave this one just as 530, but just to let you know, you can customize it. You can also insert more fields if you need to do that. What is my mastery going to be defined at? Typically, it's the middle point, so my 3 points there. And what calculation method am I going to use? My decaying average, the number of times, the most recent score, the highest score. How are you going to decide how to calculate out those outcomes? Once you do that, you're just going to click on Create, save that outcome. And now you'll have a criteria right here, 1.2B4. And where is that? That's on my account level. So now anybody who's in my science department can go and find that outcome and tie that outcome specifically to an assignment they have or a quiz that they have, even a graded discussion. That's your outcomes. You can also do rubrics. Two ways you can do rubrics. It's in your navigation right here. It's also at this little tiny button over here at the right-hand corner. So when you click on that, you'll see Manage Rubrics right there. It's going to give you the same access as this one right over here. You're going to add rubrics. Again, think about where you want to put that rubric. Are they going to be rubrics that all teachers will use? So maybe it's your PE teachers and they have to always do the exact same thing with your students as far as their health standards, what they're learning. Maybe it's a nutrition class. Everybody does the same thing. Everybody can use the same rubric. You're going to click on Add that rubric right there. Just give it a name like this one here. Once you create that, that rubric is going to be something that you're going to build out. Same thing, you're putting in the criteria. What is it that you're measuring? What are your ratings, high and low? And then you'll be able to add more in there if you like, and you'll just continue to do that. So you just have an edit button right over there where you can continue to add more criterions. You can also find that outcome. If you've got that outcome already out there, you can add it in. Import that. And now I've got an outcome already associated with this rubric that I'm going to be using. So that's your outcomes and rubrics very quickly. Question banks are the same thing. I know we're running close to time here. Question banks on the top level of your account so everybody can share it, or in your sub-account level. Just follow the buttons that say add a question bank. And the grading is the last thing to talk to you about here today, and that's adding grading periods. So maybe you're a K-12 system and you have your grading period. You have a full academic year, but you've got 2 grading periods. You can set that up here. You can also set up grading schemes, by the way. If you have one grading scheme that everybody has to use, then you can add that right here under grading schemes up on an account level, and all of your instructors can pull it in to the course that they're teaching. All right, we're right at the end of time. So I hope we got to all of your questions there. I'm going to switch over to that exit page. Let's see. So Rob wants to know, can we explain the flow of how outcomes are used? So Rob, that would be if you were, for example, let's say K-12, okay, state standard. So all of your math teachers have certain criteria for testing with their students. You would put that information on the account level, or you could put that on just the sub-account level, such as the math department. And then your math teachers, when they create their assignments and their quizzes, they can find it